at the Portland Nursery Apple Festival, and I'm here to buy some apples for hard cider. So let's go take a look. Let's see, what do we got? We got Macintosh over here. It's a good one. Macintosh is a really good cider apple because it's very aromatic, and so the cider winds up smelling a lot like apple with Macintosh in it. All right. Well, I'm getting some Granny Smith because I've used these before in cider, and the cider has been really good. Color in it. There we go. Okay.
Let me know when you want me to hold that big bag.
You know, there's a lot of subtlety about different types of ciders, but the basic process is pretty straightforward. You get apples from somewhere, and you grind the apples up, and you press them to get the juice out. And the juice is pretty much ready to ferment just as is. Basically, you just add yeast. And wait. And it turns to hard cider. My name is Johnk, and I have been making cider for 7 years, I think. I was formally trained in winemaking at UC Davis, and I worked for about 3 years for wineries. But for home brewing, I made beer at home for a long time. And then about 7 years ago, I switched over to cider. I don't actually remember why I did it the first time. I just thought it would be fun. I guess I was playing darts with friends at a pub, and cider was just kind of a fun, like, English drink. So that's how I got started with it. For my anniversary this last year, I got this German bladder press that takes basically a whole bucket worth of ground apples and presses those. So that sound is apple solids getting pressed through the sieve. And I borrowed a grinder from James Long.
My name is James Long, and I would say I'm a very amateur cider maker, also a producer of vinegar. I'm also interested in making other forms of alcohol, beer and wine. It seems if you do wine, you pretty much will do the others as well. 10 years ago, I became very interested in buying some land out in the country, and I had wanted to grow grapes. That's sort of the grand prize of if you're in agriculture. But the land we got faces the wrong way. In Oregon, they recommend a southern aspect, and our land faces north, but it turns out you can grow apples on it. So planted apples with the idea of making cider. That was always kind of where I wanted to go, and it turned out that growing apples is a lot harder than it looks. And so 10 years later, I go and pick apples and press them with the idea of moving towards more sort of a farm to bottle model. I think I'm a better cider maker when I do it with somebody else. With Chris comparing notes and writing back and forth, it's definitely helpful.
There's a big community of craft brewing or craft cider making or craft wine making. So you can meet a lot of people and you can spend a lot of time hanging out with people and working with people on their projects and whatnot. You know, learned about the Apple Festival and go back there every year, and that's fun.
The way it always feels to me is it's kind of like a big backyard party in the fall. So pretty much the entire 5 acres here is participating in some way. We've got a huge kids tent in the back. We've got a band tent out in the middle of the yard. The greenhouse down the other direction is our tasting line. It's pretty neat. You get to chase 50 different apples if you care to try them all. This front greenhouse over my shoulder this way, the front half is a hard cider tasting kind of a thing, and then the lineup changes as well as the format of the tasting a little bit every year.
The Apple Festival, they have cider makers come in to do presentations, and I actually got to meet some of the people from Wandering Angus, and they had a really good cider that they were pouring that year, and I wound up talking to them about some of the things that I was trying with my ciders.
My name is Rachel Draper, and I'm the 3rd generation to grow up on the Draper Girls Farm in Parkdale, so outside of the river. It's an apple orchard, but it also has pears and peaches, so lots of fruits. Summertime I'm there most often, and then downtown I do the farmers markets, either sell fruit or the cider. Typically what I do is when customers come over, just talk to them about profiles and what they like. Do they like sweet? Do they like it more dry? And then I just kind of help them go through and pick flavors. Telling people about the process of how we make it. We do all of ours on our farms, and people just know that you're getting it and we're making it right there, all from step 1 all the way through at the farm. Doing the farm gives me a little break from my regular job of teaching, but in some ways I'm still teaching people because people come and they're surprised by all the varieties of apples or pears. I think for me, getting to educate people about the fruit and the process, it just helps communicating, just meeting new people.
There's these little connections that you make. I've met James. I love going to Steinbart's. The people there are really great.
Most people know F.H. Steinbart Company as a home brew or home fermentation store. So people come in and get all their ingredients and equipment for brewing, fermenting beer at home. My name is Mark Gillette. I work at F.H. Steinbart Company here in the southeast area of Portland. I am the store manager. I've been in that role for the last 4 years, but the store has been selling various components like that since the very early days, even during Prohibition. We open earlier than most homebrew stores because we have a whole group of commercial customers who arrive very early because they're on their way out to go repair, clean various places, draft systems. Then we see brewers and cider makers coming in because they need something. It can be a little hectic, I guess. It's fun because it's a hobby, so people make a choice to come here. I mean, the industry itself in Portland and in the country is a pretty friendly community most of the time. I joke with people. I say, the job can't be that bad. They pay me to talk to you about beer. There could be worse things in the world to do. I was home from college. I have a younger brother. We're 1.5 years apart. We were kind of bored. I had a credit card. Went and maxed it out and we made beer. I was hooked the first time doing it. Part of it was there wasn't a lot of varieties like we have now available, and sometimes I couldn't get it or I couldn't afford it, so I read about it and then I would make my own version. So that's what my thing has always been, chasing the thing I couldn't get. From the homebrew side, it's not just people that are real sciencey oriented. Sometimes it's people that are just want to be self-sufficient, or sometimes it's creative people. I probably fit into more of the creative side. My background is in art, and so when I cook, it's a much more creative and a sort of a spontaneous thing.
You use a lot of technology, you use a lot of science, microbiology, but once you learn all those things, what you create is uniquely yours. You get to see something being made really from scratch, like from the farm or picked from the tree fruit. You make something all yourself.
It's just a visceral experience. You know, the smell, the taste. Drinking it as it starts out as apple juice, and then as it starts to ferment, you get some fizziness and so on. And also, it's just great to go in to your kitchen and open up the lid and reach in and get a big glass of apple juice, maybe cider, and enjoy it.
But you know, like there's usually that moment when I can walk around and kind of talk to people I know and just kind of catch up. I mean, some of these folks I've now probably known for 15 years, and this is how we met. They're familiar friends at this point.
So it's people that are all about making beer. It's a little friendlier because we're all there for the same reason, and we're excited to talk to each other about what they're making and what you're doing. So I think it's that hobby thing, you know. So yeah, generally it's a good community.
It's really satisfying to have this as a craft and a hobby.
Oh, okay then. And we're going.
Okay. There we go. So these are self-capping bottles, which is nice. Just have to make sure that it's lined up right. Okay, and that is this year's batch of Triple 20 cider, round of 9.
Good.
Yeah, this came out good.